Howdy, howdy, and welcome to My Bloody Judy with your final forgets, myself, Zachary Patton Garcia.
And Ian Carlos Crawford.
And by the time this is airing, we're already 12 days into Halloween, guys. Spooky season. We're almost halfway through it. It's going. And on Hulu, for Halloween, there's a show called Bite Size, and they're in their third season. It's 21 new shorts of, it's not just like straight up horror, right? We've got sci-fi, we've got thriller, we've got comedy in most of them, right? And with us, we've got two people who worked on episode 3, correct? Snatched.
And it's written and directed by Michael Schwartz. Hello, Michael.
Hello, how are you?
Good, and it's edited by one of my LA husbands, Michael Patterson. Hello, Michael.
I'm a husband now. I was a boyfriend the last time we recorded.
Ooh.
You've been bumped
I
up.
wondered where this came from.
Husband of housewife promoted.
Yeah.
We've known each other long enough, so you're
We've
promoting
known
husband.
each other for a very long time. Thanks for having us. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
I'm really excited.
Yeah,
you guys are here.
thanks for wanting to do this. So I'm very curious about the process that goes into like how you pitch it to Hulu. Like, tell me about the process of like getting this started.
No one got approached here. I was unemployed and sad about the world. As many ideas begin. And to be perfectly frank, I DM'd the 20th Digital Studio Instagram. And I said, will you take any blind pitches? Not thinking in a million years I would hear back. I actually have not told this story publicly yet, so that's okay.
They're about to have a lot of blonde pitches.
Yeah.
Ian is number 1.
But that's okay. You know, who cares? A few friends of mine had done previous seasons of Bite Size Halloween. I was a huge fan of them. I was a huge fan of the fact that they were taking diverse filmmakers from around the world and honoring their visions, to use horror as a catalyst to say something that means something to them, right? I did something I've never done before, which was DM the 20th Digital Studio Instagram, never in a million years thinking I'd hear back. And I heard back a minute later saying, what's your email? We'll send you the creative brief. That was the day that the Don't Say Gay bill was all over the news. They asked me for 3 to 5 pitches, and if I could pitch them 24 hours later. And so because of the Don't Say Gay bill, I was with my partner in Brooklyn, and I turned to him and I said, you know, there was all of these political leaders and corporate leaders putting out the most hollow statements of virtue signaling, saying, oh, no, you know, we love our LGBTQ plus employees, while simultaneously supporting politicians who were donating to things that were oppressing them. And I turned to my partner and I said, God, wouldn't it be funny if a kid comes out as gay in a horror movie to his parents, but the horror is that they're over enthusiastic about it? And he started laughing, and then I started giggling, and then I just started riffing off of this, of all the different ways that we could sort of do a horror movie about virtue signaling, but at the same time sort of usurp different horror conventions and tropes that, you know, take images or moments that we're sort of used to in horror films and then find a way to turn it on its head or find a contemporary context. Hired a graphic designer that night, wrote the entire film that night in 20 minutes. It's a short, and pitched it the next day. 2 weeks later, they said, great, we are greenlighting your short. Can you go into production in a few weeks? And Patterson, who I refer to as Patterson because we had like a million mics and Michaels on the project. Patterson, he was the first person I thought of, to be honest. We had never worked together before. I went to college with his husband. We met many years ago, and somehow Scream came up like immediately in our conversation.
No idea how.
That's how it happens among gays,
I don't know how.
I don't remember how, but you know, as I get older, I tend to notice, sort of as we were saying before about the holy trinity of Buffy, X-Men, and Scream, that there are some pieces of pop culture that are not totally shared by all, but certainly in the queer community are sort of cornerstones of, shared culture and entertainment. And because this was a disco horror film, as we've called it, that, was at the quadrant of horror, comedy, sci-fi, and queer cinema, those were 4 distinct tones I knew Patterson would understand, and not only understand, but contribute to and thrive with. And so Patterson was the first person I called up when I had to put a team together and find locations and put together, a 80-person crew in 3 weeks. And somehow we made this movie, and post-production was a few weeks. Patterson turned around a rough cut in 36 hours that I'd say is like 90% what the final film actually is.
Yeah, I think so.
And here we are today. So yeah, it was a wild process in and of itself of sort of having the gall, the gumption to say, hey, I have a lot of ideas, and I pitched them 3 other ideas that were sort of all based on things in my life. And I'm so grateful they gave us the opportunity to make this film and sort of stood by us with our vision for it.
So wait, did you pitch knowing it would be a short film, or was it just kind of like you didn't know what was going to happen and they would tell you it would be a short film or a feature length?
Yeah, totally. Great question, Ian. So in that creative brief, when she said, what's your email? I'll send you the creative brief. They said, pitch us 3 to 5 ideas for shorts that can also become features. Okay. So they wanted fully realized worlds. The original Body Snatchers stories took place in Marin County, which is my hometown. Basically, a Body Snatchers movie has happened every 10 to 15 years since the 50s.
And we love them all. We love all of them.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, even The Invasion with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig?
Yes,
I also stand by that movie.
Love it.
Okay.
Well, I know what I'm watching tonight because I haven't seen The Invasion.
Have you not? Oh, well,
no, I haven't.
Well worth
actually.
it. Anything with Nicole
Good.
Kidman is well worth
I
it.
love, even though The Faculty is not an official Body Snatchers movie, I would say it's one of my favorite Body Snatchers movies.
Absolutely.
Zach is not a huge fan of that, but I think for us it's a little bit like nostalgia. Zach is of a different generation.
Zach is a lot younger than all of us, Schwartz.
Well, we don't have to get into ages, right?
We don't. We don't have to say a number.
I watched it this year though, and I wasn't like.
You're right though. As a product of its time,
but yeah.
I think when Scream first came out and I heard that name Kevin Williamson and I heard that voice, and then all of a sudden we had Halloween H2O and The Faculty and his whole his manifesto of the late 90s. It was the first time that I heard a voice where I was like, oh, that's like all my weird dark thoughts inside my head that I thought I'm not allowed to share or say out loud. That is like, brutal and so funny and campy and like all of those things at once. I had never heard that before. And so you're right. I think it's sort of that sweet nostalgia of that time. And, you see like Clea Duvall on screen and you're like, who is that? You like sort of sense some simpatico, in these characters. So, yes.
I drew pictures of Clea Duvall from that movie in my notebooks in like middle school because I was like so obsessed with her. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what an icon. The Body Snatchers stuff, even though this isn't an official Body Snatchers movie, we do not have the IP. And because Invasion had already happened, Snatched was obviously going to be the name for this film. If I was going to sort of riff on that history and that mythos and sort of put a queer spin on it, Snatched was the obvious solution.
And a good 2022 queer spin on it as well, right?
Yes.
Well, and what's amazing about it is what's so great about the allegory is it's so open to so many interpretations, which not a lot of horror allegories can say. So, in 1956, it was an allegory from McCarthyism. The 78 version, Donald Sutherland, that was all post-Vietnam, end of hippie culture era, right? And it just felt like we haven't fully seen this social horror satire that really took on identity politics in this way. And you're right, 2022 sort of felt like the moment. So I like that instead of doing a rehash or a redux of something that had already been done, we have the vessel of a body snatcher story. And then Mike, me, our producers, our actors, we can personalize it with sort of today's climate.
Mm-hmm.
What was like, I know that I am curious how much Hulu had to do with casting, or how much that was like you knew people, or
for casting. So Leon and Alex, who play the two other kids, are local to the Bay Area, which is awesome for me, as was, 95% of our crew. Tatiana and Brendan is also a wild story. Brendan, I had met at a wedding years ago. We had a lot of mutual friends. That father character is pretty tricky to cast. He has to be comfortable performing fellatio on a banana and wearing white cup shorts, and then at the same time, like, channel real rage and real anger and be scary. And Brendan, whose work I've known for years, can really play both of those. And to be honest, I did not know he was married to Tatiana. And he texted me one day and said, I shared the script with my wife, and then she texted me, and I don't know her. I've never met her. It sounds ridiculous to say out loud. I wish I didn't have to say it out loud. But they texted me, and they said, we love the script, and we're wondering if you'd consider Tatiana for the mom. And
that is awesome.
Yeah, but listen, you have to imagine me just sobbing and like screaming and
I would have been the same.
Down, because never in a million, you as an independent filmmaker who has to just get every resource imaginable, that hates asking for favors, to get someone like her, especially knowing She-Hulk was about to come out. And it's not just about who she is as a celebrity. I don't care about that. What I care about is her talent.
I was say she's a fucking good actor. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not, she is, to me, the greatest actress of our generation. And I am not one for hyperbole, but now that I've seen her on set and I see what she's, even with She-Hulk, she is a comedic genius.
Oh, her timing is great, especially in this. It was like really on display in this too.
And even like in one of the recent She-Hulk episodes where she's like full CGI She-Hulk in a courtroom, and she sort of like made me cry when like she was emotional when like the guy's calling her a whore, and I was like, how are you making me feel things as the CGI version of yourself?
Totally.
Like, that's witchcraft.
Yeah.
So anyway, I said, yeah, of course. I'd love to have you both. It was an opportunity for them to work together. And then Misha Sharovich, I was a huge fan of after Freaky.
We all were.
I mean, I was like, who? Can I swear on this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I was like, who the fuck is that? I seen that movie on an airplane, and that, again, it was like an energy thing, sort of like we said about Clea Duvall before, where you just sense, like, God, like seeing a queer character like that in a major motion picture would make like 10-year-old me be like, oh, I have a new best friend. It's really inspiring. And so Misha and I had a mutual friend put us in touch. And not only does Misha, if you Google Tatiana Maslany like 10, 15 years ago, they will look like photos of Misha. Patterson, wasn't that a photo?
Yes, it was me. I was looking, I was refreshing IMDb to see when I could add Snatched to my IMDb, because nobody does that for editors. We do it for ourselves. And I was looking at Tatiana's page, like seeing like, is it on hers yet? And then I was like looking at photos, and I thought it was photoshopped. It was so dramatic how much she looked like Misha. She had her hair cut just the exact same length, and I was like, that's insane.
What's amazing, what a lot of filmmakers don't get is I very purposefully scheduled a rehearsal day before the day of shooting. And my friend cooked us lunch, and we sat at the house overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge in the Bay, the cast and key crew members, and we just got to like read through the script and talk about it and talk about how it related to our lives. And we did the photo shoot, this one of all the rich white people I knew growing up who like did these like photo shoots, like dressed in all white on the beach, that I thought were so preposterous. And clearly I was like, that's the poster image. It was an opportunity for us to bond. It's hard when you don't know anyone and suddenly you're kissing strangers, or your family members with strangers, or you're pretending to enact violence on strangers, it helps to have some degree of trust. I had an intimacy coordinator and fight coordinator, my friend Zoe, on set, who was amazing. So that was like a luxury that we got to get together before filming began.
Well, and it was such a quick turnaround time too, right? Like filmmaking never ceases to astound me. 80 people for this, because I thought when I hear short film, I think 20, 25 minutes, maybe 30, right? This is 10 minutes. 80 people for 10 minutes. That's like wild.
Well, I mean, what's interesting about that is, and what to me is astounding about the filmmaking process, is how sort of everyone knows what their role is. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, for me, because the tone is quite tricky in that it pivots constantly between horror and comedy, that everyone sort of got on board very quickly with what we were trying to do. And I love being able to trust Patterson, to trust our costume designer, our set designer, to just go hog wild with it, with this world. And everyone can contribute their creativity and sort of how they see the story. Yeah. And I think when you have those sort of early meetings, I only had a 2-hour Zoom with Tatiana and Brendan maybe a couple weeks before we shot, but to have that time with them where she was like, where did you get the idea for this mom from? And we could sort of talk about sort of where these key moments of inspiration happened and then what it meant to them and what
I
they
want
saw.
that answer too, though. Where'd you get the mom from?
So that was when I was marching in the Black Lives Matter marches in Brooklyn. There were all these white girls on the side of the road crying. It sounds awful to say it out loud, but it's so true. It was fascinating to me in those conversations, after the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, where a lot of white people were sort of wanting, a lot of white people I knew wanted to help, didn't know how to help, and some would sort of listen, which is sort of the message of my film. It's why Joey keeps telling his parents, just listen to me, because that to me should be the biggest takeaway. And in that sort of struggle, a lot of people center themselves. Yes. And so when these white women on the side of the road who I started talking to were like, I read White Fragility, what else do you want from me? And, and we're just sort of like crying and sort of making it about themselves. And to me, it was like, oh, that's actually like a great comedic character, right? Is someone who really wants to help, but keeps bringing it back to themselves. And so, in the car ride where the mom's like, I need you to take me shopping. And I need you, all of that stuff is her making her son's pain and her son's coming out process about her. Right. But, there was really fun, like Brendan texted me the day before shooting with a photo of Gavin Newsom, who I like and have a lot of respect for, but with the slick back hair, sort of making fun of like, we're making fun of ourselves all the same. And he was like, look, I want to sort of make fun of this sort of, liberal character who, kind of for some reason looks like an 80s Wall Street, broker or something. And I was like, that's hysterical. So, and Tatiana, that mascara thing in the car ride scene, she showed up to set like that and she just comes up to me and she goes, this okay? And I'm like, yeah, that's really funny. And they did the seatbelts line, that's her ad-libbing. That tongue pop in the kitchen, that's her ad-libbing. I mean, yes. Patterson saw her do a million different things. We could have, I hope at some point we can release like outtakes of the way when her eyes first go blue in the kitchen scene and she turns around.
She gave us so much.
We are. She does versions of that where I can't even do it, where she like turns her body first and does bend the shoulders and like does the head like this weird alien creature. And Patterson and I had these conversations where it was like, it's too funny. Like not every moment can be funny because then you don't have the horror and the drama and all that. Yeah. But they gave us a wealth of things.
There was a lot to work with. She gave us way more than we sadly could ever use because it was just like, oh, that's so good. But no, thank you so much for that incredible option.
I will say Mike has helped me edit a few things. Mike and Zach are the two people in my life that help me with editing videos all the time because I will take years to edit one video.
But you've gotten better, Ian, so give yourself
I've gotten
some
a little better. Name some of the like things you wish but like just didn't fit or whatever you had to cut.
Well, I mean, it's mostly all there. It's mostly just the the sort of turnaround that Michael had referenced. I remember being taken back. Well, like I almost fell out of my seat when they did 7 takes of the wide where they're quartering Joey, and when Joey says to his mom, I have baseball practice. Takes 1 through 6, she just kind of slumped away defeated. Take 7 though, she does that tongue pop, and it's in the movie. That's the take that's in the movie. And but like I had such a like I was so shocked she A, knew what it was, B, did it, and she did it so well that I was like, I immediately flagged it, I marked it, I was like, this is going in. Actually, that entire take from start to finish was like, it was Schwartz in the background of like, after he called cut, he was like, that could just play as a oneer, because they were just all 3 of them were in it at that point. It was so great. I love the seatbelts line. You know, there was she did something in the driving scene which we couldn't use just because of that driving scene was a little tricky because it's all sort of at the same axis. Like all the edit there's really only one edit point where we're in the back seat from Joey and the other boys' POV on mom driving and looking backwards. But there was something she did. It was about the Renee Brown podcast. It escapes me now, but I was like, I fought to try to get one of those different readings in, because she just did something so funny. Anyway, this is not a great recollection now on my part, but it's there.
But also, she didn't like the Sex and the City Lin-Manuel line that is so genius in its modulation.
Yes.
Right? It sort of like is like so crazy and then insanely crazy and then the most crazy. Like she didn't do that every time, right?
No.
Like she did all these different versions of sort of accelerating the emotion, which was important because their eyes only flutter blue at the beginning. It's basically the more emotional they get, the more alien they become. Yeah. So the more emotional they get with their anger, their rage, their sadness, that's when they go, fully psycho.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was variations every time, right?
Yes.
She would never just do the same thing. She would give you something, she'd move on, and even the way she throws her head back out of the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't something I told her to do, but she's clearly a filmmaker in her head as well. She knew that would cut to that wide of the way she comes back up. Yeah. Genius.
Yeah, it was. And I'd like to give Schwartz a lot of credit too. The reason I was able to put together a cut so quickly is because Michael obviously knew what he wanted, and then it was usually like I watched everything because that's what a good editor does. But I was like comparing notes from set. I was like, I really like that. Yep, so did Schwartz. Great. Okay. Like, and it was like it just really came together. And also, like, I'm from TV. Like, we get we got like I'd say like out of the 2 days of filming, right? I received 2 hours of footage. That's a usual day of TV footage that I received. So they were very lovely and being like, you get a whole week to put this together. I was like, I don't need that. Like, I was like, thank you. And I shouldn't say that, but I was also just like, I was more aware of like, well, I know how to put this together very quickly. I know the story we're telling. I know the tone we're telling. I want to get this to VFX and finish. I want to get it to the people I'm handing it off to sooner rather than later, because that's where the time is really important. And also the footage was just so sound already that I was like, if this took me a week to put together, like I should not be an editor.
I really love imagining you, Mike, because I know you're like your big laugh when you're like really into it. And I'm just imagining you being so shook by the tongue pop at like the end of watching all the takes.
Yeah, I screamed. I was like, oh my God. And then and the way she rolls her R's on occur, which I can't even do. I was like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, she's been possessed by Laganja Stranja. Like, and I was like, did Michael tell her this? Does she have gay friends? I assume she does. I can't imagine, but like, I was just like, what? Who told her? Who told her to do that?
So I know she came up with it, right? But did she let you know she was going to do it right before the take, or did she just do it in the take?
Yeah,
no. So a couple things. One was I had talked to Brendan maybe during our rehearsal day, like about a tongue pop thing, and she clearly clocked it. because he couldn't do it. And so she clearly was like in her head, oh, I can do a tongue pop. I'll do it at some point, but didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And so what's funny is if the take we use, which is in the film, if you look at Brendan's face, he's trying so hard not to laugh, which is actually in the film, which I love, because they're not expecting that. And so their chemistry together, the way they like psych each other up, even, you know, in the takes not in the film. I mean, they would like psych each other up in a way that was so cute and adorable.
Very cute.
But they're clearly having a fun time. Yeah. And you know, if you've seen any of the She-Hulk press, especially the ones like on the official Marvel channel, they clearly did a lot of it in one day early on. She's wearing a Protect Trans Kids sweater, right? Which I think is astounding that, you know, the wardrobe on that stuff is pretty controlled. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone said, hey, can you just like be in something non-messagey and just, you know, and she probably was like, no, I'm going to wear this because it will go out to millions of people. And what's different about that in some of the conversations I've had the last couple of weeks, particularly, for instance, with the "In This House We Believe," you know, Black Lives Matter sign at the end. It is my hope. I believe audiences are smart. I hate when people play to the lowest common denominator of audiences. So it is my hope that people watch this film and don't think we're being critical of the messaging on that sign, and that of course we believe in those sentiments. What we're being critical of is the fact that two people are watching a father break his son's wrist in the middle of the road and then putting down that sign and smiling and saying, we've done enough. Right. That's the joke of it, if you think about it for a moment, is that there's no action behind it. And so when you're just saying Black Lives Matter, but you're not supporting Black businesses or you're not amplifying Black voices, then that phrase doesn't carry much weight. So my hope is that, you know, yes, you have a platform. We have platforms. Do we have to drive ourselves crazy every single day to make sure we're using our platform to the best of it? No, because we can't drive ourselves insane. But in those moments when we do have opportunities like Tatiana had, where she's like, you know what, I bet I'm going to have a lot of young kids watching these behind the scenes films. And there's probably going to be some queer kids who are going to be watching it because queer kids love comics. And She-Hulk was always so beautifully campy to begin with, that she's like, you know what, I'm going to stand by this. And I'm going to make sure that this messaging is clear. And my hat's off to her for that.
It's funny that you brought that up because I remember thinking that when I saw her wearing that, I was like, ooh, I wonder how much, if she got yelled at for that. I wonder if she got like in trouble, because like it's not like a secret that Disney is very strict, right?
Right.
And I remember like seeing that because I think the only other Marvel, I think it was her and Don Cheadle that have worn, like he wore, I think, a Protect Trans Lives, but it was on SNL. Yeah. So like Disney probably is like, all right, do whatever the fuck you want. It's not our show. But like I was thinking that how did she get away with that? And you're right. She probably was like told not to wear it. She probably said, no, I'm good.
Yeah. I think it's pretty baller. She's like, what are you going to do? I'm the star of the show.
Know.
Do you not want me to
got
do press?
Snipers up there. Like they're ready.
She's like, I don't care. You know, she's fucking She-Hulk.
Do you think she said that? I'm fucking She-Hulk.
I hope she did.
I'm She-Hulk, motherfucker.
She knows what power she has, right? And she, in no way, between the giant projects she has right now, had any necessity to do our short film. But it meant something to her, whatever it means to her. And she wanted to be a part of it and do something with her husband as well. And they were obviously perfectly suited for those roles. But what it validated for me, and I think for our team, is that, you know, the sort of big aspirational dreams we have, it never hurts to ask. And it never hurt, you know, the worst someone can say is no.
I tell Ian that all the time. I say, email Sarah Michelle Gellar a sixth time. You know, all she can say is no. Or leave me alone, a restraining order.
All they can do is her agent blocks my email.
That's it.
And I think I can only speak for myself. I have been so self-conscious over the years of any degree of, I haven't had an agent or a manager or a publicist. And so self-promotion feels gauche, and asking people to be a part of something and get paid pennies feels disrespectful. And I in my newer age, I guess, I'd say that if people want to be a part of something and they want to put their time into it, they have the autonomy to say no.
The messaging is really important, right? But something that you touched on that we kind of just like blew through just a little bit is putting yourself out there and taking those risks, right? To do this. And like you said, like couldn't hurt to ask. All she could say is no. And really, we're in an age where we are up against everybody else trying to do the exact same thing, right? So if you're going to sit there and not take any risks, if you're just going to like be too self-conscious to ever put yourself out there, you're not going to get anywhere. And so you did it. You got her. You had her in your short film, right? Like that's a pretty fucking cool thing, I think. And I think people are going to see that and get pretty inspired by that. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but I do want to get to the rapid fire. So yes, again, go watch Snatched season 3, episode 3 on Hulu, bite size. And it doesn't have to be like quick answers either. Okay. These are just fun questions. Okay. Just using the rapid fire name. All right. So there are 2 main doors to your house, the front door and the patio door. Which door am I at?
I think you're at the front door.
You're at neither. You're behind me.
Both doors, because there's 2 killers.
Oh.
It's both of us.
Well,
That's good. That was good.
Out the front door or up the stairs?
I don't have stairs, so I'm out the front door.
Fair enough.
Again, my answer is if you're giving me 2 options, it's to not take either of those options and to bust through a window and go outside. So
Schwartz is going to negotiate being killed.
There you go. Just Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre right out the window.
You stab me here and here. But...
Who plays you in a horror movie?
Who plays me in a horror movie? Ryan Gosling. Why not?
I'm going to change my answer to Jenny McCarthy.
And yes, and it works, and we do it. Yes, I like the answer.
So you're to sign off by wishing Mike good luck on Sharknado 10, right? Zach, wait, what would be your answer to that question? I'm curious.
Oh goodness. Well, I don't know. Bar's been set high now. If we're gonna go that route, Tori Spelling, obviously, it has to be.
Well, wait, now I want to be a girl.
We all
want
just
Lindsay
go.
Lohan to play.
Oh,
Lindsay Lohan.
Ooh.
My character, who would play me, is Joshua Jackson. I've been casting him as myself since I was like 15.
You were ready with that answer too.
I was. Who's directing your first movie?
Michael Schwartz.
Who's directing the movie about me, about my life, or
it's a horror movie? So we're going with the theme that you have a horror movie being made.
You can pick yourself. You're allowed to.
No, I don't want to pick myself. Why don't I do Lars von Trier?
Oh wow,
this is getting wild. It's getting crazy. Okay, so Lars von Trier with Jenny McCarthy.
I mean, would you not see that?
Oh,
movie?
I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it. Okay, we're seeing the movie. Hide, run, or fight.
Run. I would run.
I'm going to go with run.
Ian. Hide,
Actually,
run, or fight.
sprint.
Sprinting.
Run.
Okay, perfect.
Hide, then I'm just waiting to die because I know I'm going to get found. Describe your horror movie.
What a rapid fire, guys.
My horror movie is gay, obviously, probably centered around wrestling, because I don't think there's been a horror wrestling movie.
I don't know if there's been a gay movie centered around wrestling.
A gay horror wrestling movie. So it's probably like opening scene is like somebody in the crowd, very Scream 2, watching wrestling, gets killed. And then, I don't know, it's like the boyfriend of whoever was in the ring performing that got killed, and then he has to figure out, it's slasher also.
Mike, you came up with this quick. You
I was like looking
it's
at all
not
this.
quick. No, that was his Hulu pitch. He was he was in there.
No,
Mike, I do appreciate
all
that.
my wrestling shit, and I was like, no, that's never been done before.
Mike and I are like the same kind of nerd where we have a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I do that too. If someone asks me something, I'll be like, let me look around my room. What can I pick from what's here on the walls?
It's either Madonna or wrestling.
Ian actually came up with the concepts for Small Soldiers. It was just about Buffy figures.
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Michael Schwartz.
I'll say Snatched the feature, Snatch the lunchbox, Snatch the video game. I would, I want cutting satire, real pathos, big scares, neon colors, deep shadows, allegory, metaphor, characters you care about. That's the other thing. Going back to Scream, you cared about Sidney Prescott.
Oh, yeah.
You have always cared about Sidney Prescott. And that is the key to that franchise for me, honestly, is that, and I'm going so nerd, talking about like modulation of performance, the way we were talking about Tatiana before, do you notice through every Scream film, Neve has so deliberately modulated her performance to get harder and harder until
we've done many a discussion on this. Yes.
She's like practically smoking a cigarette. She's like, come the fuck at me. I'm going to get you.
Click.
Right?
Yep, click. Yeah, when she hangs up, she's like, bored.
Bored now to make a Scream connection to Buffy.
Michael, I have talked about this at length. That moment is so important to me when she's like, I'm bored, and she just hangs up, because it's like, we earned that moment with her, and she's like built up to being able to hang up on her trauma when it's calling her. And that's such a good character moment. Like, she's scared a little bit, but she's mostly just annoyed. Right.
Yeah.
And like,
So
that's
good.
just perfect.
Another My Bloody Judy cornerstone conversation.
That, that's the one I got the most nice messages about when we
Really?
talked about that. Like, I got the most people sending me like, I don't normally get the nice messages. Zach gets them. It's like, who's this ugly faggot next to him? It's usually the things about me.
Whatever.
But I got like people being like, oh, I really like the way you talked about that. Like, that made me like that scene more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's
That's
a fighter.
fantastic.
Sydney's a fighter.
It's good.
Sydney is a fighter.
Yeah.
I care about her.
I forget where we are. Is it your turn now, Zach?
Yeah,
I
I'm on
forget.
7. Sorry, we're about to go into a whole Sidney Prescott conversation. I have to stop myself. You have to kill the killer for good and end this franchise, Jenny McCarthy. How do you do it?
Is it? Ooh.
How you killing the killer? They have to stay dead, too.
Decapitation.
Did he stay dead?
Well,
Does it
Michael
work?
Myers didn't stay dead.
It was the wrong killer.
It was the wrong. I know.
person, yeah.
It was a paramedic, right? God. I would say. I mean, I'm gonna go with the classic. You shoot him in the head.
There you
Shoot
go.
him in the head.
Okay. And Lindsay Lohan's raspy voice, too.
Yeah.
Shoot him in the head.
Shoot him in the head. You want to see my Christmas movie? That's how you kill him.
How, if you had to go out in a horror movie, how would you want to go out?
Well, I definitely want to be the opening kill, because I think that's iconic. And how would I want to go out? I would want to go out in the most brutal way possible,
Same.
so that people are just beside themselves and can't even focus on the rest of the movie. And then they just write about how, like, man, I thought he was gonna make it. I thought he was on the poster. He was the main character. I want to be the Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
I want to be the most important.
Drew Barrymore and the Sarah Michelle Gellar, and I Know You Did Last Summer.
Yes.
Has to be.
That's a good. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Schwartz.
Well, my first thought was like, I really like the slow deaths, like the first Final Destination when the guy's in the shower. Do you remember that?
Oh, he
scene?
gets choked. That's like so
and the
brutal.
wire
Yeah.
goes around his neck, and the like blood
His
goes
eyes.
into his eyes, and oh my god, that was so horrifying to me. But I will tell you, I have died in a horror movie. I died second in the film Midnight Movie, which came out in like 2007, I think. And I always love when deaths correlate to like whatever the problem is with the character. It's a movie where a group of friends are in a movie theater watching a horror movie, and the killer comes out from the movie to kill the kids in the theater.
Oh, cool.
See, had we known this episode would have been the four of us reacting to your death scene
Oh, God,
in that
no.
movie.
No, do you know, no one in my family will watch this movie. My partner won't watch. Like, nobody. Every time I'm like, you guys, I like literally died in a horror movie. They say, Michael, we do not want to watch you die. And I go,
Is it
yeah,
streaming?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
where can I find
We're
it?
ready.
yeah, you
We're
can
ready.
find it online.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
putting
called
it on my
Midnight Movie.
letterboxd.
Anyway, so my character, who is like the Randy, like the nerd, has flatulence in the theater because he won't stop eating all the like candies and chocolates and everything. And so he goes into the bathroom, and the killer, who has a corkscrew weapon, impales me in the solar plexus and like takes out my heart and my guts and my bowels because I had bowel issues in the movie. So I always thought that was like always like how great that whatever your ailment is as a person that you're like self-conscious about, like that's how you die, right? That's what the killer targets. So
It's terrible. I
I've
hate
had
that.
my death scene and I'm quite happy with it.
We'll stick with
Well-
it. Jenny McCarthy, disemboweled because she has too much flatulence.
Disemboweled, Ken McCarthy.
Who would you cast to play? What is this question? Who would you cast to play the big opening kill? Okay, yeah.
Well,
Mike
Big
Patterson.
opening kill. Yeah.
besides me, I would cast. I mean, oh God, who would I cast? Who has never?
You got to
done
make a
horror?
splash.
Yeah, gotta make a splash. I mean, is it sacrilegious to say Courtney Cox and her being the opening kill? And
Is she? Gail
it's in our
Weathers?
movie. It's our movie.
Is she Gail Weather? No,
Is she
can't be
Gail Weathers? Well, right.
Yeah.
I think she would be Gail Weathers.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Nope. All right, you
Okay.
triggered something. You made me think of something, Zach. Jennifer Aniston would be an opening kill. Yeah, because nobody would see that coming.
So interesting because I was thinking Angelina Jolie.
Oh,
I feel like they would both be really good in
That would
our
be
movie.
real fun too.
in the Brad
Yeah.
Pitt slasher
Oh
extended
no!
universe.
Oh no!
movie.
Too soon! Too soon!
BPCU. BPCU. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want your answer on that one, Ian. I've always said Lindsay Lohan. Taking it back to you, Michael. Yes, I think
Lindsay would also be
Lohan,
really good.
She needs a horror movie. Another one.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could look at her IMDb and argue.
A couple of them. Just My Luck is a horror movie.
She,
but,
yeah, she has a horror. She has a career in horror.
Scream Queen
movies.
already.
Yes.
I don't know who I would cast to be my opening kill. I'm like, now I'm doing the thing that I just said me and Michael are doing, where I'm like,
He's thinking of me though.
what are
It's like die first.
I don't know who I would cast as my like opening kill. That would be
You wrote
like,
the question, Ian.
I know I did, but I didn't think of my answer.
I can give you one of my other ones. My other option was going to be Andy Cohen.
I can see it. There
You know,
go.
when I was working on Bros, it was right when Scream 5 came out, and I actually wore this the night. But I was working all day in this, and he was like, "What are you doing tonight?" And I was like, "I'm going to see Scream." He's like, "Oh." He was like, "Did Nev come back?" I was like, "Yeah, they're all back." He's like, "Did Courtney come back?" I was like, "Yes, they all came back." He's like, "Did Drew come back?" I go, "No."
She did though.
She
She did.
Drew, what do you mean she did?
She's the voice
She's
on an
the
intercom.
voice of the princess.
Yeah.
She's the voice of the principal.
Okay, you got me there. But I was okay, fine. Fair enough. But I was like, no, like I was like, are you an alien? Like, have you never seen the Scream movies? Like, she famously is the opening kill.
Wait. Explain to me why you were with Andy Cohen while editing Bros.
Oh
No,
yeah, we
Billy
need to go back
Eichner.
to the beginning, right?
No,
oh,
I said Billy Eichner.
Okay.
Billy Eichner, the star of Bros, the
Which
writer
is
of Bros.
but I said Andy Cohen. You're wondering
Yeah.
how Andy Cohen and Billy Eichner.
Because I said to him, I was like, you should be in Scream 6 to Billy. And so he was like, no, I don't think that would work. I was like, okay, well, have a good night. Anyway, that's what made me think of that. Sorry.
Okay, so it
This is
didn't
one of
relate
the
to Andy
American
Cohen.
Horror Stories.
They're friends. They're friends. I wasn't just saying I worked on Bros because that's obviously not a character trait I talk about ever.
Oh, what? We didn't just record about that last
I
week
know.
together, Mike?
Please go see it while you still can in theaters.
I'm still trying to think of who I feel like my opening kill would be Sarah Michelle Gellar. Like I'd want to cast her as like But I feel like that doesn't count because she's in a bunch of horror movies where she dies already. So I don't know that it'd be that
She
big.
needs to live in a horror movie. That would be.
Yeah,
great.
she's
That'd
only
be
she's only
turning
died
it
in
up on its
one.
head.
Although I haven't seen The Return.
She's died in 2.
She's,
Oh, she
I feel
dies
like
in the
she's died in
Grudge
all
too.
of them, guys. I don't.
Yeah,
like,
actually, she
let's
dies in
list
all
her
of them.
horror movies.
Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. And
They're
The
all.
Grudge.
She dies everywhere. Let's let her live next time. What's our last question?
Who do you want to see play a final girl that hasn't yet?
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Viola Davis.
Final girl. Oh gosh, I'm freezing.
Zach can name my answer, I'm sure.
Michelle Pfeiffer has.
Oh no, I'm not. I can't think of you right now. I need to think of my own. Quizlet Tom.
We'll say. Jane's also played. I was like, no.
She was a very good final girl.
She's a very good final girl.
What about one of the feud ladies behind you?
I know. Well, I was just thinking. Maybe. Yeah, Jessica Lange, final girl. Although Jessica Lange's played a.
I was gonna say.
Can she
a
technically be
murderer.
considered a final girl already though? Is she?
Well-
Let's think through it. Yeah, maybe.
Oh, with all
possibly.
the American Horror Stories,
Yeah.
maybe. It's not a fun answer. How about let's say, Zoe Kravitz.
All right.
Ooh. I like that.
All right.
I was
Michael,
looking at Catwoman.
what was you already said your answer, right?
I said Viola Davis just because I think she's one of the greatest actors of all time
Oh,
and
yes.
has such final girl energy to her and hasn't done something like that where, and I think that I just want to see her prevail. I love seeing her prevail.
I would love to just see a Viola Davis wail in a horror movie. That kind of thing. I don't know.
Zach,
Ian.
what's your answer?
Or
then?
no, you first. Go for it.
I feel like you know what my answer is.
I don't know what it's Summer Bishul.
Yeah.
There you
Can
go.
I change my
told you.
answer?
Yeah.
Can I change my answer?
We can all change our answers. Yes.
Michael, yes.
I want to change all of my answers actually, and I want to cast Eve Lindley, who is a breakout in Bros, to be the star of a horror franchise and be a final girl because I think she's a tremendous talent, and she deserves the world. So,
Mike, I was just about to say to you, I was talking to one of my friends who really likes her. That was you. That was
yes,
you.
it
You
was
were
me.
the friend.
It was me waxing poetic about her. I got to meet her through Darren Stein. We ran into each other, and I fangirled over her, and she was like, "How do you know who I am?" I was like, "I worked on Bros." She's like, "Oh, okay, great." Months and months ago. Anyway.
Zach, what's your answer?
Oh my gosh, I can't do this. Emma Roberts has already been one, right?
Well,
Like she's been in a few.
Yeah,
horror
I mean, I
movies.
guess Chanel Oberlin is a final girl.
Oh, yeah. True. She does live.
I don't fucking know. Lacey Chabert. I don't know. I'd go with Lindsay Lohan again, but I think she has done that. So
She finds out who kills her.
yeah,
She knows who kills her.
yeah. That's something we'll have to revisit another day. But
Georgia
it's not
Rule.
about us, Ian.
Georgia.
All right, boys. Well, you want to tell everyone where they can find you? Both. Michael Patterson, you can go first again. Since...
Okay. You can find me at Michael Ryan P on all socials, and you can check out my website, MikePattersonEdits.com. Please hire me for queer horror stuff or queer comedy stuff or really anything, commercials, music videos, please.
And
And
Michael
if you
Schwartz.
do, you will get the best possible product possible.
Thank you.
I don't want to give out my home address, then someone's going to come kill me.
That's what we do here, though. Okay, it's a horror. It's just the surprise of the horror podcast.
Wait a minute. That is a great opening to a horror film. Is like a filmmaker goes on a horror podcast and then like somehow answers this question, gives away his address, and killers show up that night. Okay, so I'm boat ashore, BOATASHORE, as in Michael, row your boat ashore. That is me on socials. And my website is whoismichaelschwartz.com. And don't ask me to answer that question because I don't know.
I can answer. He's the writer and director of Snatched.
I'm
There
the
you go.
writer and director
There you
of
go.
Snatched, now streaming on Hulu. There you
And
go.
Midnight Movie, star of Midnight Movie on.
I
can't wait
where
to
is
watch
that?
this.
Where is
Oh,
that?
gosh.
Where can we find that?
I mean, I can look it up right now. My guess is it's on Amazon.
Should be.
I added it to my.
Which, by the way, Patterson, you inspired me. I signed up for Letterboxd today.
Yeah, Letterbox. We're on Letterbox too, baby.
I know we are. And
That sounds
some
like a
these
lot
were-
of decision making. I couldn't do a Letterboxd.
Oh, you
Well-
would love it.
Mm.
You just rank movies. And then if you become a patron, which is extra nerdy, you can change the poster zone thing. So
Ooh.
I was one, I got really stoned and I signed up for Letterboxd because I thought it was something you did too, Zach. And I was like, oh, I want to rank all my like the horror franchises. And then I just like the interface when you're very stoned, it was like a lot.
Oh, I love the interface. I love how it looks. Please. Oh, you can find me. I think I'm Michael Ryan P on that as well. Please follow me there.
What I'm going to use it for is to track, like, people always ask me, like, what are your favorite films and what are your and I write them down all the time and then I forget them for some reason, except for the top 5.
I have 20 top 10 favorite movies, so that might be helpful for me. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Hey, by the way, I just saw Midnight Movie is on Amazon.
It is
on
there.
Prime Video for $1.99 to rent. Oh, you already
Yes,
found
there
it.
we go.
I cannot. I'm
No,
watching
you
that
guys,
right now.
Can I just say I'm so terrible actually in this movie? Like, I am completely joking. I'm terrible in this movie.
Even better.
But I do die second, so you get rid of me very quickly.
I love it though. I love it. Yes, go watch Snatched. Go watch Midnight Movie, The Killer Cut, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you
And
so
go
much.
see Bros.
And go see Bros. And thank you so much, Michael and Michael, for being on here. We will see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Guys, you're awesome. Thank you so much.